Keeping your waterstones flat is essential to getting the most out of your sharpening. Tom here at Sharpening Supplies, and in this video we're going to be answering a common question that we get, and that is how often should you flatten your waterstones? Whether you're new to sharpening or you're looking to switch over to using waterstones, this video is for you. So let's get started. So waterstones are an abrasive held together in a binder, and as you sharpen, that binder wears away and it exposes fresh abrasives to the surface. This is what keeps waterstones sharpening quickly and consistently. Over time, that wear leads to waterstones developing a bit of a concave shape known as dishing, and this can negatively impact your sharpening efforts. So it's important to flatten your waterstones regularly. So here are a few reasons why it's essential to keep your waterstones flat. So the first would be that during sharpening, it is essential to maintain a consistent angle. And even if you're holding your knife or tool 100% consistently at the correct angle, if you're sharpening on a dished out stone, then the angle on the stone surface is going to be changing. Second, flat stones provide consistent contact with your tool's edge. Now, the more of your bevel that is in contact with the stone while you're sharpening means that you'll be able to sharpen a lot quicker, and that's best done with a flat stone. Third, regular flattening will help make your sharpening sessions go quicker for a couple of reasons. The first would be every time you're flattening, you're going to be exposing fresh abrasives to the surface. And then also regular flattening means that your stones don't get really dished, which will lead to quite a long flattening session. So overall, flat stones just lead to better sharpening. Now here are 4 factors that will determine how often you need to flatten your waterstones. So first would be stone grit. Now coarse grit stones, they tend to have larger abrasive particles, and so when they wear away, the stone will dish out a little bit quicker. Also with coarse grits, that tends to be the stone that you use if you've got damaged or really blunt tools, so you tend to use them pretty hard as well. When you get onto fine grits, they wear a little slower, so typically you don't have to flatten those quite so often. Second would be composition. And so, like I've mentioned, a waterstone is made up of a kind of grit in a kind of binder, and those vary between stones. A good example of this would be the Nanoir Standard Traditional 220 grit stones. They've got a green carbide stone that cuts a little quicker, but it also wears down a little faster, so that would need more frequent flattening. And then they've also got a 220 grit with pink alumina, which cuts a little slower, but it also stays flat a little longer. So while these two stones are the same grit in the same line of stones, they will need flattening at different rates. It's also a good example of how more frequent flattening isn't always a bad thing. With this stone, it's balanced against the positive that it cuts metal a little bit quicker. That said, if you get some more premium stones, they tend to do a better job of balancing fast cutting with low wear rates compared to more economical stones. Third would be tool type. Now, certain tools, they require a really flat surface. If you're sharpening something like chisels or plane blades, then it's a good idea to flatten your stone before you start sharpening those. With certain tools like kitchen knives, you can get away with sharpening them on a slightly dished out stone. You'll be able to improve the edge, but you'll still do a better job if you have a flat stone. The other thing with tool types would be the steel that they're made of. So certain steels resist abrasion better than others. So if you're sharpening something like 440C steel, maybe you'll be able to do several sharpenings on the stone before it needs flattening. Compared to maybe something like a really blunt Maximet knife, you might be able to sharpen that once and then you need to flatten your stone a little bit. And then the last one would be sharpening frequency. This one's kind of obvious. The more often you sharpen, the more often you're going to have to flatten your stones. So as you can tell, there isn't a one-size-fits-all solution for flattening your waterstones. Personally, I like to give them a quick flattening before every sharpening session. That just ensures that I'm sharpening on a fresh surface and that I know that it's going to be flat before I begin. If you want to wait a little bit longer between flattenings, what you can do is you can check to see how dished out the stone is, and we'll talk about that next. So how to check your stone's flatness. The most direct method would be to use a straight edge, lay that across your stone and hold it up to the light. If you can see light coming through between the bottom of your straight edge and the stone, that will show you that your stone's dished and you might need to flatten it. Another way would be to use a pencil to draw a grid pattern on the surface of your waterstone and then start flattening. If the grid pattern isn't being worn away evenly, then that will show you how much more flattening you need to do. So just keep flattening at that point. Waterstone flattening options. So there are several different options for flattening your water stones. So there are flattening stones, like our Double-Time Flattening Stone that we have, and then there are similar ones from Norton and Nanoir. These are great economical options for keeping your stones flat. There are also diamond lapping plates, like the Diaflats from DMT. These will stay flat and they're really fast at flattening your stones. And then another option that's out there are systems that use loose abrasives that you put on a surface that you know to be flat. Those are nice because you can switch up the grits depending on what grit waterstone you're flattening. If you want a more in-depth look on the different options of lapping plates and flattening stones, you can watch our video up here. Personally, I'd recommend using the mantra little and often when it comes to flattening your waterstones. If you use the pencil grid method that I mentioned earlier, then you'll have a clear sign if you still need to do a little bit more flattening on your stones. I like to flatten often because I know that it gives me a fresh surface, even if the stone was pretty much flat already. For how little material it removes, I think it's a win-win. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you have a system for how often to flatten your waterstones? Let us know in the comments. If you don't have a way to flatten your waterstones, I'll provide a link in the description to all of our lapping plates and flattening stones so you can check them out there. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a like. It really helps our videos to reach other people who are interested in learning about sharpening. And if you're new here, please subscribe so you don't miss out for new sharpening content.